That could be the final video. I'm parking it. It almost looks like I parked it.
So Lauren, what can you tell me about this thing?
Well, we built this thing back in 2020. We got laid off from work, and we were inspired by the Grindhard boys to build a couple of our own Barbie cars. Basically had 2 dirt bikes laying around that we weren't really using. I wanted to upgrade to a new dirt bike anyway, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity to rip the motor out of that and utilize what parts we could to build our own Barbie cars.
So this thing is a Power Wheels, and we stripped the inside of it, took all the electrical components out of it, made it a bare shell, built the frame. Now we have a pretty fun Barbie cart.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's incredibly fast. It does not handle very well whatsoever. And yeah, we like to stud the tires so as we can ride on the lake. We live just across the road from a nice lake that freezes over on the winter. So we have plans of building a second one, and we also have a full build breakdown episodes that will be coming out on this, but the quality of those videos are not the greatest. So hopefully from here on out, all future videos are going to be really good, but right at the start, you'll see, you get to see how this thing's built, but it's not going to be the best.
Sweet. Hey, let's take the body off and get some more detail about what it looks like.
Absolutely.
So there you have it. This is the cart without the body on it. And the most important part of it, this thing right here. It's a 2000 KTM 250cc 2-stroke engine. And this thing's got some jam.
Yeah, it's incredibly fast. Only had it on the road once with the normal street tires. and you know, sort of like unrecorded, it's about 150, 160 kilometers an hour, which is 100 mile an hour for people in the freedom world. So yeah, it's a full 5-speed transmission in this thing. Pull back to go up gears, push forward to go down gears. This here is the clutch. It's very hard to package this thing. There's not an awful lot of room, as you can see. So we've got the throttle pedal over here on the right. Brake pedal is down on the left on the other side of the engine. We've got our Kickstarter, which needs a little bit of fine tuning to try and make this thing a little bit easier to start. And as you can see, we've got a full tube frame. So we managed to build all of this with just the tools that we have in the shop. As I said, we built this back in 2020. Utilized basically the engine, exhaust, and the wiring harness. And we were able to run the rear brake off of the actual dirt bike as well, mount that to the rear axle. And then we've got the radiators mounted in the rear here, which the thing actually does run very cool, which is quite nice, considering they are way down there in the back. They don't get an awful lot of airflow, but this thing usually doesn't run long enough to overheat anyway, so especially in the winter, it's not a problem. We've utilized a little jack shaft down here. So we've got our main drive coming off the engine, running down to a sprocket here, with a jack shaft across to a second sprocket, and then a second chain down to the rear axle here. And then that way it all spins nicely. We're able to adjust the gear ratio by changing all 4 different sprockets to try and speed this thing up or slow it down. We've actually slowed it down an awful lot just to try and make it better for going slow, especially on the lake or ripping around my property here. It's just way too fast. First gear is too tall. It's too easy to stall. So it's actually a lot more driver friendly with the lower gearing, and it probably still does at least 100 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and then you built the fuel tank right here.
Yeah.
That used to be a plastic one, and that gave you too many issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you take one up out of aluminum.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, everything on this thing is pretty much home built, bar basically there's a few parts obviously. So the rear axle and the like bearing components and stuff like that, the hubs and the steering components are largely, you know, bought from Go Power Sports. They do a lot of go-kart stuff. They're for very low-powered go-karts. So unfortunately, this stuff doesn't really hold up when it's got, you know, 50 horsepower or whatever this two-stroke engine actually makes. As you can see, this front wheel here has got an awful lot of camber on it right now, and that's because we've actually snapped that stub axle off once before. And then we've tried to weld it back on out in the bush, and it's sort of progressively getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So one of our long-term goals with this thing though is to add suspension to it, as it is extremely rough. It does not handle very well. So adding some suspension would make this thing quite nice. We're not looking to go all out and put like, you know, quad suspension or something like that on it. We've got some basic air shocks off mountain bikes. We're going to add those to it and get just a couple of inches of travel on each wheel. That should make it handle so much better, be a lot more drivable. And yeah, we've got to build a second one because it's fun, but it's not as fun as having 2 of them ripping around at the same time. So,
especially when we get out in the frozen lake.
Yeah.
Some big corners and be able to
Yeah.
go nice and fast, do some drifting together.
Set up a little race course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have studded tires. You would have seen in the beginning of the video that we were running around with studded tires. More or less just studded some turf tires. It works, but there's too many leaks. So the problem is we lose too much air as we're trying to drive. So we do have a plan to make some new studded tires that should allow us to ride for or drive it for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And yeah, with studded tires, like anyone that's ridden on studded tires, it's amazing how much grip this thing gets. I'm sure in the video or some other videos you've seen of this thing, you can do wheelies with it. That's how much power it has. So with the studded tires, this thing hooks up really well.
Yeah, and it's fairly reliable. So other than the tire issue that we have right now, if we could get the studded tires sorted out so they're not going flat all the time, we could be running this thing until it runs out of fuel. So it's basically just put fuel in it and go again sort of thing. Whereas right now it's just an absolute process of go out, run around for a couple of minutes, bring it back in, pump the tires up, go out again. So if we can eliminate that issue, it's literally just going to be put fuel in it and rip.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So definitely some things to look out for in the future. Suspension, new tires. There's going to be a second one that will do a pretty detailed build up on it, show you how the suspension gets done. We're going to do some how-to videos on how to set up suspension properly, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, stay around.
Yeah, got a bunch of other projects in the works too. So this is just the beginning, and yeah, stay tuned to see some more fun stuff. Hi, welcome to the... What are we calling it again?
Good. Why did it stop?
Amateur hour over here, I tell you. Bam. Done.